This is going to be a different video. I want to talk about a core memory here for a minute, and I am going to tie this into Bionicle, but I'm also going to tie this into Pokemon because that's what actually triggered this. And it's fascinating to me. It's a fun memory. Let's get into it. When I was a kid, I used to play Pokemon quite a bit, as many of us did. It was the 90s, right? And so although I was a little bit young to be like right into it at the start, I had brothers, I had siblings, and we had lots of people down the road. Thankfully, we were a fairly close-knit neighborhood, and so a lot of them also played Pokemon, and we kind of learned how to play it by proxy, right? So I used to play with my next-door neighbor, who at the time was my best friend. My best friend and I were also into Bionicle. I more than him, and he was into Pokemon more than me, often playing a lot of the games. This would have been early 2000s, maybe 2002 or so. Well, anyway, at some point during any of this, my friend ended up coming into possession of a card that I really wanted. See, I was tasked because he just didn't like the tediousness, if you will, of essentially going around in these Pokemon games and finding certain things. And I didn't really care for the games themselves, but I was interested in specific Pokemon. Specifically, in this case, this would have been, I believe, Crystal version, and I liked Raikou a lot. Well, this was right after the point where you basically unlock the legendary dogs, if you will, and so they kind of scatter across the island, and you have to go and try and find them. I was really gunning for Raikou here specifically, and he had essentially tasked me, hey, go find one. The first one you come across, catch it, whatever, right? Well, I played the game, ended up actually finding Entei first, and which ended up running from me. So that was bad because we didn't know at the time. I think you can actually run into them, but we thought it was a one-time thing. Didn't matter. We ended up turning off the game anyway, and of course he went ahead and restarted. He was pretty ticked off, but around the same time, he ended up also actually coming into possession of a box, one of these white boxes you can still find these at a lot of different card stores, and this was full of a lot of Pokemon cards, usually doubles or triples of things that the shop just had too many of, a lot of energies, a lot of things like that. And one of the cards in this set specifically was this Raikou right here. Now, it wasn't this specific one, but it was this card, right? I don't know when I came across another copy of it, some point in the, well, since then, because I don't know what actually happened to this, but he came into possession of this card, and I was very jealous. Raikou was not my favorite Pokemon, but at the time, I think it was my favorite at the very least from the second generation, and so I really wanted this card. And we used to play Pokemon, as I said. We also used to play Bionicles a lot. Now, how do you play Bionicles? Well, in the 2000s, it was all about knocking off masks, knocking Krana out of Borak, right? But there was a problem. Okay, so we're digging through this box, and I see this. And of course, as soon as I see it, I want it. My friend knows that, and so he takes advantage of the situation. We're going to turn this into a little bit of a game here, right? And so he asked me, basically, hey, go through this box, pick like, I don't know, 30 cards or something like that. I'm going to pick 30 cards as well, whatever number. It doesn't matter what it was, right? But out of those 30, he would essentially be able to sift through the extra, a total of 9. And one of the cards was this Raikou. Obviously, he knew that was the one I wanted, so it was one of them guaranteed. The other 8 were basically his choice from my pile or his, including some energies, of course. But the premise of this game was that I had to defeat the Exo Toa. How do you defeat the Exo Toa? It doesn't have a mask. So we used to play it a very specific way. If you're familiar with the Exo Toa set from 2002, you know it has these hoses on the back of the head that wrap around to the neck. It's a wonderfully designed set, by the way. I encourage you to own it if you don't own it already. But that's how we used to play. These weren't masks per se, but they were stud-based connections, and so they were similar to knockoff and roughly, although a kind of intricate shape, about the same size as a mask if you really wanted to try and hit it. Toa had a pretty easy time, but not too easy time of getting it off. But we used to play the game grounded, meaning that our Bionicles basically could not leave the ground. In this case, of course, he made an exception, and I had any choice of Bionicle that we had on hand. Well, I had a Borak, and so I just decided on that one. So the idea, if you're familiar with the Borak, they hit pretty hard. And so I thought, okay, this is going to be easy. I can get this, right? And I did. The rules for this were pretty simple. I had 3 chances to knock off 2 hoses. And by 3 chances, I mean I got to hit it 3 times. If I couldn't do it in 3 times, I lost. That was how it was placed. So I tried. I hit it. First time. Very first hit, I get one of them off. I'm real excited. Second hit, got the second one off. Didn't even need the third one. But here is where things got tricky. See, I didn't just get to pick the card I wanted. No. Like I said, he picked 9 of these 60 or so cards that we had pulled out at, I don't want to say random, he got to sift through them. Placed those 9 down in a 3x3 rectangle of cards face down, so I could not see which ones they were, and I essentially had a 1 in 9 chance of guessing the right card. So after all of this effort, trying to knock these hoses off of the Exo Toa, I had a 1 in 9 chance of getting the card. I did not get the card. No, there's no suspense here, okay? I got a fighting energy. I was pretty ticked off. It felt a little dirty, and he knew that too. So he's like, all right. We're going to do it once more, of course. I try. I'm upset at this point, heart's pounding. Go at it, missed completely. Go at it again, missed. But then I went at it again, and I missed again. So obviously I did not get to pick a second card, but he was a nice friend. And at this point, I figured something's going on here. At some point, he's going to say, we got to stop. We can't do this all day, obviously. He's like, all right, I'll give you one more try. 3rd time's the charm. But after this, I got to go eat dinner. I'm hungry. Whatever, right? All right. So I swing the first time. And I got one this time. Got one of the hoses off. I was real proud of myself. Swing the second time. And it's starting to look a little bit familiar because I didn't hit nothing. Nothing. 3rd time, though. I got it. Hit it on the other side. It was a little bit harder at first because we weren't sure that it was actually knocked off. And honestly, I could be misremembering this. He might have pulled it off for me. But I got one more chance. Whatever the case was, one more chance to pick one of those 9 cards. So I did. Well, I guess it would have been 8 cards now. I already picked the fighting energy. I got the Raikou on my second try. It's technically the 3rd, right? What are the odds of that? It's 1 in 8, obviously, but I was pretty happy. And you know what he said to me? To immediately kill my suspense and all this energy I released because I was so happy I had this. I probably screamed, to be honest. Like, I was real happy. He's like, I was going to give them to you no matter what. He just gave me both stacks of cards. He didn't care. Like I said, he's a good guy. But still, it's so ingrained there, right? Because like I said, at this point in time, like, neither of us were really heavily playing Pokemon. We still collected cards, and I continued to do so for several years past, as he did as well, up until, like, I don't know, 7th or 8th grade. I remember a day where he actually showed them to me outside, like, waiting for the bus to go to middle school, right? So, like, we both played for a handful of years, but I got more heavily invested into Bionicle as time got on, and of course he got more invested into Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! And other things as well. I tried to get into Yu-Gi-Oh! It was not my thing personally, but it's fine. But what's interesting about all this is that out of all that excitement, I can't tell you what happened to that card. I don't even know if it made it into my binder. Something I've learned from being a kid, and maybe you've learned this as well, is oftentimes the things that are your favorite are the first things that get damaged, lost, broken, or something else. I always wondered why. But then I realized, well, yeah, it makes sense. The things you love the most, you love the most. You handle it the most. It's with you all of the time. And so it's just more likely to get damaged. You drop it on occasions, you step on it, you roll it down something the wrong way, and it chips the paint or whatever, right? So at some point, I did not have this card anymore. This is not the exact same card, but it is the same exact... How do I want to phrase it? It's the same card, but it's not the same copy. It's a different copy of it. You get the point. It always fascinated me, and I was into Pokemon for years after that point, right? Maybe this is part of what started. Now, I didn't play a whole lot when I was in middle school or high school, but I did end up actually getting back into it for a very short time after high school. When I was down south, I ended up actually playing with friends down there in the dorms because it was just what we had to do, right? When we had free time, there was nothing else, really. I mean, there were other card games, sure, but being that Pokemon was the thing I played, the thing I was most familiar with, I'm like, all right, whatever, right? And so on occasions, we'd go on trips and go to different places to buy stuff, right? And so I ended up picking up a deck of Pokemon cards from like the mall or something like that. Slowly over time, I whittled through this deck and just made it more and more powerful. And though we played pretty much like without standard rules, like we could just pick whatever cards from any era that we wanted, we still played with basically all of the others. And I ended up creating a deck that was like, at least here with the given cards pool that we had, unbeatable. Like, so it was boring. I ended up actually getting into Magic after that because Pokemon was trivial. That's not to say that I'm good at it, because I don't believe that I am. But at the same time, I just had a different strategy, and my strategy worked for that set of people. But yeah, it's just funny because I think there's so many things that the passions of your childhood can really connect to, tangibly connect to. I talked in a handful of days ago about the Miru, which again, I'm going to show off the silver one, not because it's the only one I have or I'm trying to brag about it. It's a $5 mask, but because it's just the one on my desk, right? And I always keep this one close by because it's my favorite of the Nuva masks. I talk about how it's essentially a core memory of mine as well, and you can watch the video that's featured in. But memories are fun sometimes. And so all of this effort, this whole day was basically revolving around one card specifically. I don't know what my allure to it was. I don't know why I was attracted to it. It wasn't hollow or anything like that. It wasn't even particularly rare. Again, this came from a box of basically repeat cards that this shop had too many of. It just something I wanted. And, you know, I felt special for a handful of moments actually earning it, or I guess earning it through the way we played our game. Would he have said, yeah, we can do one more best out of 5 or whatever if I had failed? Probably, to be honest. I mean, he was that kind of person. Or at the very least, maybe he would just been like, all right, take it, whatever, right? But yeah, we were both shocked when I flipped the card at the either way, right? So, but yeah, all because of a little box. And honestly, I don't even have the deck that goes in this box. I don't know if it actually came with the deck, to be honest. It just has a lot of cards from various eras of Pokemon, and that was in here. And I looked in my closet the other day. I don't even know, honestly, what I was looking for. And this was on the top shelf. And I figured, all right, I'll grab it. I'll go through it real quick. And there it was. It was pretty cool. So anyway, that's pretty much it for this video. If you guys did enjoy this one, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. It does really help out the channel. And of course, as always, if you want to join the conversation, you can check out the comments below, or in the description, you'll find links to Instagram, Discord, or Patreon if you want to support the channel and get some perks. And I will see you all in the next one. Take care.